Happy Monday, everyone, and welcome to HUSL Education. We are excited to welcome Hayley Mears from 6 Underground Media for her next HUSL Education series business webinar. It's designed specifically for independent hairdressers and salon owners wanting to grow smarter online. Each month, Hayley shares practical salon-focused marketing strategies, and this session is all about TikTok fundamentals, from scroll-stopping hooks to creating content that actually gets seen. Plus, that as a thank you for attending live, all attendees who have downloaded the free HUSL app will receive a $20 wholesale voucher added directly into your app, again valid across all brands. So, Hayley, I will now pass the mic over to you.
Thank you so much. This is my first live. As last time, I think I might have actually even been teaching my TikTok class. I think that's why I wasn't on live. So thanks to everyone for joining. I find that the best way to learn and to teach is to do it in a conversational and very kind of casual way. As really creative brains, if I make it too formal, it becomes overwhelming and everyone kind of tunes out. So I just like to think of this as a round table where I'm going to share all of my knowledge and my thoughts on TikTok. But I will say every time I teach a TikTok class, there's always something that someone in the class will teach me about it. And I think that pretty much goes for most social platforms. There's so much to know. They change every single day, and it is just like this moving landscape that we're all really we're challenged to keep up and to keep current with it. So I think if I could share something with you, if you don't feel like you have everything kind of sounded out on any platform, you are not alone. Like, as someone who works in social media, it's my job to be an expert on everything that is social. And I feel like I only know 1% of what there is to know for a couple of reasons. Like my brain just can't hold, the extensive and vast amount of information. But that information is updated daily. It's nuanced. It's specific to the user, the brand, the audience, the economy, even like the tools that we use to consume it. So even the phones, right? So all of those are variables. I don't have all of the answers. I certainly don't know everything that there is to know. But the one thing that I think has always helped me in social marketing is pattern recognition. So if I can recognize a behavior or a pattern that exists either in the content and the way that it's received when I publish it, or the audience and the way in which they engage, but also what other people are doing, that pattern recognition is generally the foundation of whatever my strategy is going to be. And sometimes that strategy is to stop what I'm doing because it's not working. And I feel like that happens with every social trend. And we go through all of these different eras of what is trending on social, whether it be like an aesthetic look. So, a primary example of that is that really beautiful, which I love, curated feed that is like seamless and editorial. And it's like a graphic designer just puts it all together. You've got this harmonious grid that just works. Now, that was very much a trend, but the authenticity and the struggle that businesses have to maintain that as a messaging tool, that is over. So now we're in a more authentic era where we have combinations of really high-res polished content, and we also have our really authentic kind of back of house, behind the scenes content. And I feel like currently we're in a good place because things don't have to be as perfect as they probably needed to look and feel for the last 2 years. I feel like we've had that moment, we've learned from it, and we're moving on. I do think that my tips, and I'll say that this is a wider statement, probably applicable to all social platforms, not just TikTok, is that the content that you produce, it needs to have your own signature to it across absolutely everything. So whatever it is that you're doing, make sure that it has a look and feel that is your own. Is there something signature that's going to be in every piece of your content that brings it back to you and makes you easily identifiable to your audience. And also, and something that I talked about in the last class, it's like really identifying who your audience are and drilling down into what they want. I think if you've kind of got those as your foundation, you'll be able to build from that quite well. And a lot of it is, that trial and error and observation of the patterns. So I've got a few more classes to get through before the end of the year, and I hope that you're going to be joining for the rest of them. We are up to the TikTok fundamentals today. So one thing that has been absolutely phenomenal about TikTok over any other social platform is the way that it's actually read search engine optimization, or SEO. Now, TikTok is far more searchable than Instagram or Facebook for a number of different reasons. The way that it was built and coded means that what you actually put into your content, whether that like in the video, TikTok has always had the tech to be able to read using AI, pre us being aware of AI, understand what that content is about and who it's supposed to speak to. And therefore, that page that exists in TikTok, it's called FYP, the For You page, will suggest content that is so niche and so specific to your behaviors that no other platform had quite nailed that as well as what TikTok had. So that's why I feel that Reels, they have eventually caught up, and Instagram are, trying to mirror everything that TikTok does. So they have their own version of the For You page, as in the suggested content that you'll see that will populate its way through. But the SEO that is behind TikTok means that it is a tool that is an e-commerce tool, in the sense that you can buy more products on TikTok than you can buy on any other social platform. But it also means that you can use it as any kind of sales tool, whether that be a booking, and that is where, the salon space comes in, or anything else that might be a data capture piece. So I think TikTok has an amazing ability to really find your niche for you a lot quicker and a lot faster than what you would have been able to do by just using Instagram. It's very much about your community. And you'll notice that as you start to grow and scale, the more that you use it, there will be a very niche audience. Now, whenever I have taught social media marketing, and I think I've drilled down into this in a really big way, especially in the last year, my advice to any of the brands that I work with, like whether they be salons or, they could be any brand, a retail brand, a beauty brand. If you're selling a service, you are only really speaking to a certain kilometer radius of people, because they are the ones that are spending money in the business. You probably feel like what you're publishing is going out to the masses, and in many ways it is. But the return or the spend that's going to come back into your business is going to be specific to where your salon business is. Now, in that B2B space, because I know there's a few B2B people on the call, that's slightly different, because everyone's your customer and you're going, national, you're going a little bit wider. But for the salon space, have a think about, where are my clients? Are they in a 10-kilometer radius? Are they in a 5-kilometer radius? And then really start to make sure that your content is specific to that. If I could give the dream scenario of anyone who's going to create TikTok content that is going to bring in business to their salon, it's going to be use as much of your local background as you possibly can. The salon's going to be part of that, but also get out into the community and film content that becomes recognizable when it gets pushed through on the For You page, because that SEO will identify people that have similar profiles to your audience, that are geo-fenced within a certain kilometer radius, and you want them to think, oh, I know where that is. Like that looks like familiar content. What is it that I'm missing out on here? In terms of that sales piece, as I was saying a little bit earlier, the data that we're seeing is that when it comes to online shopping, TikTok is almost at the same use as Google for anyone who is a TikTok user under the age of 35. So rather than someone under the age of 35 thinking, I'm going to go look on Google because I want to buy something, they're just as likely to use TikTok as that search engine tool to find what they can buy. And the reason being is TikTok have been so clever with the way that they've produced e-commerce into the actual content. So knowing that there's a couple of people with us today that haven't had a lot of experience or use with TikTok, when you start to consume influencer content, what you'll see is, different apps or different buttons pop up saying, if you want to, this is the outfit that I'm talking about. If you want to buy it, you just click my button to purchase, which will take you to an affiliate, so that influencer gets a percentage of the sale that they make from broadcasting to you what it is that they're selling. And it's just become so easy. And then they can put in all of these different tags, whether it be, the brand, the location, or the interests that their audience have, so that as they build that content up, they're getting as much organic reach as possible. To go back to the fundamentals of TikTok, make sure that when you set up your TikTok account, that you've got all of the best practice in there, as in like the link in your bio and as many contact places as possible. So you want to make sure that it's very easy to book with you through all of your TikTok links. And just optimize that landing page as much as possible. Here is a tip that is an observation. I'm not going to say it's a fact. I haven't sourced the data from somewhere. But when I have a new client that I'm working with and we launch a TikTok account, we get growth really, really fast because TikTok wants to make you inspired to stay on the app. Whereas like if you launched an Instagram account, you would just slowly be ticking away at trying to procure your audience, reaching out to people, and it would be a slow build. Whereas I feel that TikTok really rewards you for being a new account. So it gives you so much more organic reach. And again, it's going to publish your content on the For You page, and it's going to decide who it thinks your audience is, and it's just going to show it to them. So in that first 30 days of opening your account, I would go hard and fast. Do as much content as you can in the first 30 days because that is your window of growth. That's when they're going to want to promote you as much as possible. Then they're going to pull back a little bit because you've kind of got the hang of it. And then they're going to introduce TikTok for Business and TikTok ads to you. So that's my observation of how it's worked. I think they're a very savvy company. So TikTok videos from new accounts get 300% more initial impressions. That is actual data. The engagement dominance, what is so interesting is the beauty industry and the fact that we have a huge chunk of that TikTok market. I think I don't know if I could break it down into a pie chart exactly which industries would get what, but I'm sure that there's definitely a fitness and, healthy lifestyle component of TikTok that does very well. There would be a hospitality part. There would be fashion. And then I think it's also very much a learning tool. I think there's so many tutorials that happen on TikTok that don't necessarily get the same traction on Instagram. It is a great tutorial place. So, for example, carpentry and art and all of those things where you've got a bit of a lean into being able to teach yourself, that's where the content does really well. So in terms of the strategy that I would like you to consider if you're going into this space is like, how many tutorials could I create? Because TikTok's going to be a great place for you to educate your audience on how they can do hair themselves. So that tutorial space is very, very important. It's also very much a tool, I guess, like a carousel, in that a TikTok has generally, if it does quite well, and there's two different types that do quite well. One is a slightly longer form, which is a story that it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's a narrative piece, and that would be like a narrative video. My example of that is a consultation and, a salon appointment journey. So you would have seen a bunch of times, almost like a salon walkthrough, and the signature piece, I've done it, I think they're quite cool, is, the hand pushing the door to open it up, and that's when the story starts. So the story of the middle is that client experience, and they go to reception and they're greeted and they take their seat, they have their consultation, and then, the service actually begins and the transformation begins. The other part of TikTok is like quick, hard, and fast, and definitely under kind of that 15 to 20 second mark. So whenever I'm creating content, it's either long or it's really short. I kind of don't do anything in the middle, because in order for me to tell a story and have a really good narrative or a hook, it has to be fairly long, because there's all of those different touch points that I need to hit along the way. The kind of funnier stuff, and the more casual, cheeky, under 15 seconds, that's going to do really, really well.
I have two questions. So Tarina has asked, what if you have missed the 30 days?
Okay. Interesting. It depends. If you didn't have an enormous amount of followers, I'd just start again. And I'm actually a big fan of archiving, which I do on all of my socials. If I feel like the market's speaking to something new, and I look at my content and be like, it's not just my content, but my clients' content, and be like, this isn't speaking to the market anymore, I archive either 90% or absolutely everything. And the reason that I use the archive tool is because I don't want to delete it. I want all of the data about how that content performed to still be in my account. I still want to be able to perhaps unarchive it or reuse it or repurpose it for something a little bit later. But by wiping the slate clean, it's almost like I'm refreshing that browser and allowing all of the new SEO and all of the new algorithm to come through again. So if you've got a fairly decent audience though, and you don't want to delete it and start again, I would just do that archiving, just clean everything out, delete or remove. And sorry, what was the other question?
Well, the other question you've already answered, which was, Kat asked, we have an existing account that we have not been active on. Would we be better off starting a new one? So yes. Yep.
What I would say on that is the account that you are going to delete, I would be really clever and I would change the name of that account to something else before you archive it or delete it. That way, when you start your new account, the username that you've always used is going to become available again. So it's like you've got to change, and that way you can get it back, which I think is a really important tip.
Yep. And then Michael, so to do that, do we open a new account and transfer data or clean out the existing?
Hit me up in the DMs or stay on for a chat afterwards. I would want to know how big your audience is, because if you've got a few hundred followers, like that's actually a fair chunk of an audience, right? That's something to start with. I don't know that I'd want to get rid of all of them. So it really depends on how healthy that audience is. I think it's a case by case on that one. So I feel like I just jumped the gun early on, as I like to do. I pretty much covered everything that is in this table. One thing that I love, the best thing about TikTok is the editing tool that exists within CapCut. And for anyone who doesn't know what CapCut is, it is a standalone video editing app that you can have a free version of, or you can have a paid version of. And if you've ever seen absolutely phenomenal video content with incredible transitions, it's most likely been made in CapCut because the templates are phenomenal. It's an expensive tool. I think I bought an annual subscription and it might have been $250 for the year, but I really get my use out of it because that $250 investment, each week I've got to save 3 to 4 hours on the reels that I'm making and the reels that I'm editing. And I've also come to find out what works for me. And yeah, it's my favorite editing tool. Now, CapCut and TikTok are part of the same brand. I'm not sure if they are owned by the same, mother company or whether it's just like one brand with two different names. So what you'll find if you use CapCut and then you push it through to TikTok, you'll get really good reach because it's like the two brands are rewarding each other for you using that tool. So CapCut is absolutely the best editing tool. Here's the tricky part when it comes to having a tool that makes the most amazing video content. Instagram doesn't really like it because it's owned by TikTok. So there's always a workaround, right? When I come to create a reel for Instagram, but I'm going to use it in CapCut, what I do is I create it. I then push it through as though I'm going to post it on TikTok. I download it and I save it to my phone. I take the music out of it because the licensing that exists within TikTok is a different license to the music that exists in Instagram. So that way it doesn't have that same metadata or that same digital footprint that says this was made in CapCut. It's a lot harder to tell. So that's why I find that my content actually does not too bad in Instagram when I've used CapCut, but that's my way around it. Another tip in that space, if I was to post something on TikTok and then I shared that exact same content piece to Instagram are going to show no one. They actually know, they've got whatever tech they use, they know that that's been published on their competitor platform. So when the exact same content gets pushed out on theirs, they give it minimal views. So our team has a process where our video content actually has two different streams and strategies, and we never cross post. We just keep it separate. I definitely find that for my more glamorous, polished reels that feel like editorial or more of a marketing spin, that goes on Instagram. But for anything that is a little bit more authentic, less polished, more fun, that's my TikTok content. So little tips here, and remember you get this at the end so you don't have to consume all of this at the moment, is making sure that your handle is succinct. So if you can, try and match it to exactly what your Instagram handle is, because that consistency is so much easier for your marketing. Always try and include your service and the area that you're servicing, if you can, in the name field. Again, search engine optimization. And then in your bio, I would always try and think about, what is my point of difference? Why would someone choose me over any of my competitors? So that is, what is the reward for following me, for being my client? Like, what is it that I can give you that no one else can? And sometimes that could be like honest, at-home hair care tips that your stylist doesn't want you to know. Like something a little bit, cheeky, bit of a hook. That's the kind of bio that I would be using. Then you also have two different types of business and creator accounts. Now, when it comes to TikTok marketing in the advertising space, you're probably going to need to go with a business or a creator account, and they are slightly different, and they don't operate the way that Instagram does when it comes to ads. So that would be very much a different class if you wanted to explore what TikTok ads do. I think that they have it's more like a Google ad is what I would explain. So it's very much about selling a product, not brand awareness. Does that make sense? Like if you're going to use TikTok as an advertising tool, sell a gift voucher, sell a product, there's not the same value as creating brand awareness in there. So the kinds of content that do really well in our hairdressing space is educational. Actually, educational content is your primary content source. So I reverse engineer every piece of content that I make for a salon. And it comes back to that this one question: what is the value in this content for the person on the other end? Is the value I'm teaching them how to do something? Is the value that I am offering them a service or a value that exists within my business that they're not going to get somewhere else? Like there has to be that. It can't just be, I'm just going to tell you something, you're going to take it in and that's it. Always come back to what the value is. Entertainment. So a lot of you will see those viral TikTokers and the dancers, and there's a lot of that. For me, in the salon space, it's definitely about, I guess, the dynamic and the culture of your business. It's that one place that you get to educate and share the culture and the nuances and the personality of your team. This is a really good place for that. And then obviously the transformation, because clients love seeing something from beginning to end. And social media has always been a digital portfolio. It's always been a place where clients have gone to see, I haven't been there before, but I want to see what their work is like. Like, am I going to fit in there? Am I their kind of client? Are they my kind of hairdresser? Okay, so the 3-second hook. The rule is you've got 3 seconds before they swipe away. So that first 3 seconds has to be really powerful. I use AI because I find that I can come up with a good hook, but it's never quite as good or quite as catchy as what the AI is for me. So I have to work out what is my message or what is the purpose of this particular reel. So if I'm going to do a TikTok or a reel about my next upcoming class, I'm actually doing one on AI empowerment with Great Links in a little while. So what I would do when it comes to preparing that content is I would say to my AI of choice, and mine is Gemini. Most of you are probably very familiar with like how Google works and that Google suite. And I would say, Gemini, I'm going to be teaching this class, and these are the 3 things that I want every student on this class to be able to learn at the end. Create a hook that makes them so interested in continuing swiping the carousel or watching the reel. And generally the kind of advice that I get on how to make a great hook is to tease them and say, this is what I'm going to show you. This is what I'm going to tell you. This is the value you're going to get. But then you actually don't tell them what it is until the end. So it's kind of like creating that little bit of bait. So an example, and I probably should have prepared something so that it's not as off the cuff as this, but, the 3 worst things you could possibly do on TikTok that most hairdressers do. That would be my hook. Because everyone's like, okay, well, I'm a hairdresser. Yep, tick. I want to learn about TikTok. That's why I'm here, tick. And what are the worst 3 things that they normally do? Because it's 3, it's easy. I'm not going to give them a heap of information, but I'm going to break that down. That's what a hook is to me. So everyone kind of struggle with that space, because that's actually my biggest roadblock, is working out how to make that first 3 seconds really, really catchy. It's hard. And it's also, you've got to be different. You can't use the same strategy time on time again. So that's where I'll put it into AI and be like, okay, I need to pivot this. Give me ideas. I would imagine, like most of you, when you get that feedback from the AI, I'll be like, oh, that's not quite right. But I'm on the way to actually arriving at the idea that I then finesse and perfect anyway. My other hack is I make a lot of content all at once, and I change my shirt when I do it. In our team, we call them FTC, so face to camera. When I have to pre-record a lot of them mentally, I need to have the energy to do it. And it is hard sometimes, because if I'm exhausted and it's low energy, no matter how hard I try, it absolutely comes through in the video. So if I've got my high energy moment and I can film a couple of pieces, I wear a different shirt so it looks different in all of them, and they just sit on my phone ready to go. I think that's a great tip. And the other lighting tip is, you don't have to, don't worry about fancy cameras. Everyone has pretty similar tech in terms of their phone, and it doesn't make a difference. Sure. I mean, the one thing that probably does make a difference is the quality of your audio and your sound. But you can get a lapel mic off Temu for $16. So your problem solved there. That's pretty easy. Okay, so we've got your SEO hack where you're going to drop in your city, your suburb, or where it is that you're wanting to target. Also, you're going to ask your audience to reply to questions. You're going to ask them questions. Make sure that it is like a circular narrative. So whether it's you asking them or you asking them to ask you, just try and keep that going. What's interesting about hashtag strategy is I feel that hashtags are actually irrelevant with the way that SEO is working now. It doesn't need a hashtag to let it know it's a search tool anymore. Every word is a search tool. So I really minimize my use of them. Sometimes I use it when I can't find the actual page tag that I'm looking for. So I did a post on my socials last night about how, as we had family movie night and the movie we watched was Point Break, a classic which I'd never seen and I highly recommend. And I went to tag it and I was like, oh, there's no tag. So I used a hashtag. So that's kind of the situation where I would use it. I've given you a bit of a foundation of what to expect when it comes to your growth. 0 to 3 months, I think you're probably looking at 200 to 500 views. And then 3 to 6 months is where I really want to see you guys scale. Now, just to preface that 0 to 3 months, remember how I said I want you to go hard in your first 30 days? That's going to look different for everyone. Going hard might be like being able to do 1 post a day. That would be, phenomenal, but maybe not realistic. So do as much as you can in that inner window, like the beginning, to set yourself up for, faster growth at the end of that 3 to 6 months. Okay, so remember the For You page. That's where you want to end up. You want people who aren't following you to be able to find you because you've hit their algorithm by being local or relevant to their interest. I would have a bit of a blueprint as to what is the content that you want to share. And when you get your PDF takeaway, I've got a whole list of suggestions of content that I think you could build and work on, because I think sometimes thinking of the content, that's your barrier. So you don't get started on the content because you're not quite sure what it is that you should post. The power of the hook, which we kind of discussed, you're going to use AI to help you there. And also your optimized business profile. I would love you guys to hit me with all of your questions, because I could see a couple of little things popping through as I was talking, and I can't do 2 things at once. So I wasn't able to take them all in.
If you ever think of a question after, please feel free to reach out to Hayley Mears. And Hayley, how can everyone reach out to you after?
I think Instagram DM is best. So my handle, and you can hit me, like you can do @6 Underground Media, but I'll probably answer faster because it won't go through my team. It'll come straight to me if you just send it to my personal, which is Hayley Mears. Do you want me to I'll put that handle in the chat so that everyone has got the right one. Yeah, so you can just ask me any question at any time. Please feel free, email me, however you want to ask it. I don't mind. I'm also a real lover of the voice memo. So the answer's going to be long. I'm not going to type it. You're going to get a recorded answer from me.
Now, Dane from King Brown, do you recommend salons promoting actual products?
I do, especially in that tutorial space. Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's so great to kind of really differentiate what each product does and go into, because you've got one product and there's a million different ways that you can talk about that as a piece. Like one feature is going to be, okay, you've heard of the ingredients, but did you know what the ingredients actually do? We're going to break it down. Now, here's one product, and I'm going to use it on 3 different clients with 3 different hair textures and get different results. And then I would break that down even more and go, the difference is the amount that I use because the hair is different. So, yeah, I think that they should talk about it, and they should absolutely have some sort of sales tool in there. This young generation are buying on TikTok. I overheard this kid in the cafe talking to his mum the other day, and she's like, "Are those new pants?" And he's like, "Yeah." And she goes, "Did you buy them on TikTok again?" And he said, "Yeah." And I just kind of laughed to myself thinking, this is a wild world where like a 14, 15-year-old has a debit card that links to his TikTok and he buys his own clothes off it.
And then talking about that as well, yes, you're promoting an actual product. And then don't forget, you've got your HUSL dropship link.
Yeah.
That is connected to you, so that when that person sees that product you're promoting, you've added your dropship link that you've created through HUSL, the free HUSL app. And then whoever buys it, anyone, a random person across the country, we don't care. It doesn't matter. You get 20% commission on all sales. So yes, promoting the product, make sure there's always a way to connect that, social content in a way to generate money for you. And as Hayley mentioned, through TikTok, a lot of people are shopping through TikTok. Don't forget to add your dropship link from HUSL. Hayley's next webinar is on Monday, 15th of June, same time, 1:30 Australian Eastern Standard Time. And the title is The Social Media Audit, a Reality Check. This is definitely something you do not want to miss.
Just on that, I'm going to go into that whole archiving and like reactivating your algorithm, getting rid of all of the stuff that you've done previously, just to maximize and optimize everything that you publish going forward. And that will obviously be fairly focused on Instagram.
Great. That was a great session, Hayley. I loved it. Libby said, "Thank you. I could have listened for longer. So much to explore. I'm actually excited about TikTok now." Kylie from Femme Hair says, "Amazing. Thank you so much. Please reach out to Hayley through Instagram DMs, please." Fantastic Monday. Well done. It was awesome. Thanks, Hayley.
Thanks, Hayley. Thanks, Molly. I'm so glad I made it.